You're back at the Faculty Factory podcast. It's Kim Skorupski here on the gorgeous island of Galveston at the University of Texas Medical Branch. And now I'm looking at Dr. Lillian Emlet. She is the Associate Program Director of the Internal Medicine Critical Care Medicine Fellowship of the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center's Multidisciplinary Critical Care Training Program. And she is the founder of Transforming Healthcare Coaching. And being a coach myself, Lillian, tell us about faculty members, professional development, well-being. Who cares about this stuff? Why are we still talking about this?
That's really funny, Kim. So, I would like to say that really our greatest asset and the most important commodity in healthcare are ourselves, the faculty, the physicians, the NPs, the PAs, the nurses. It's the people in healthcare are the most important thing. And what really the reason why I started transforming healthcare coaching is really because I saw the power of coaching my own career, my own life, and I want to be able to give that back to the entire interprofessional team so that we don't have this great resignation and continued loss and confusion across the 5 generations about where is the future of medical education going to go.
Yeah, well, thank you for being here. I can't wait to get into the nitty-gritty of this, and I really appreciate this sensibility. I've heard many times, and many of us probably have, of gosh, where I wish I had this great Office of Faculty Affairs when I was coming up, or geez, you have a lot of faculty development stuff in the portfolio. Where was this when I was coming up? And nobody taught me how to do grant writing, develop rubrics for teaching, hone my patient research skills, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I really resonate with this looking back. How can we make it better for our friends coming up behind us? So I really love your passion for coaching early in the career trajectory and on the continuum. So please, let's get into this and tell us about, how you got started or what you do or what is your method or anything like that. And let's get going.
Sure. Yeah, so the reason why I started transforming healthcare coaching is because I really believe that everyone in healthcare deserves a coach. For those that, coaching has been covered on this podcast before. And so what you mostly see is that most healthcare organizations reserve it for the C-suite or just underneath the C-suite as a developmental process for them for succession management. But that leaves people who really need it the most are assistant nurse managers, early career associate program directors, people who are in like the thick of it, right? Raising kids, being the sandwich generation, dealing with elder care, and also trying to get all of the productivity for their papers, their presentations, and travel. It's like the hardest time in your life. I would say probably the first 5 years after you graduate and become junior faculty are probably the second most stressful time, only to be, initially in training is probably the most stressful time for all of us. And so I really, now when I created Transforming Healthcare Coaching, I really felt that there were many places, in my heart as a medical educator and a mentor and a developer of people, was to create a coaching company that could help people through all the different inflection points throughout their developmental journey in their career in healthcare
Yeah.
so that we can continue to transform ourselves, our own personal self leadership as we work with our teams, as we work with our organizations, and I would say that most people don't really think about their life and their career in that big picture framework. Once you're sort of out of the training wheels of your program, where you get, evaluations every couple of months or weeks, you're really self-reflecting all the time. There hits a point somewhere within the first couple of years of your faculty life that you're like, is this all there is?
Mm.
Like, what am I supposed to do next? And even if you have great mentors, even if you're great sponsors, even if you're really involved, there's definitely moments, I would say probably every couple of years where you're wondering, am I on the right track? Is this the right thing to be doing? Could I pivot? I don't want to pivot. My identity is now so tied to what I teach now. And so to think about that in a different way really takes someone who's neutral to walk alongside you. And that's what coaching is. Coaching a professional coach really is meant to be your secret Sherpa on the side, to hold a mirror up to yourself, to be able to hear and see and feel you so that you understand this is where I need to go, or this is maybe something I might want to modify slightly.
Well, thank you for that, Dr. Emlet. Now, why, however, why is this different from mentors? Don't our mentors and our sponsors do this kind of Sherpa-ing with us?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think as medical educators, we often carry all of these hats at the same time. We're often a sponsor and a mentor and a coach at the same time. And so that I would say those three things are really commonly confused for many people, along with the last one being therapy. So I'll sort of break those things down. A mentor really goes and shows you the way and has a flashlight or a flood lamp to help walk alongside you in that project, in the presentation. And actually, if you are successful, your mentor also becomes successful along with you, right? So the project, the papers, the presentations, the things you develop together make you both equally vested in that product. As compared to a sponsor literally just opens the door. So I think some of my most fun parts of my national organizational work, like for example, the Society of Critical Care Medicine I'm involved in, is just I get to just open the door for other people. That's just so fun to basically say, hey, I see what you're doing. I've gotten to hear your, a little bit of out case presentation or your abstract, and I think you'd be great for this committee work or this job or this project that we're doing at a national level. So I love the sponsorship work, and so they're slightly different in that respect. Coaching really is meant as an individual level, or if we are coaching a team, is to think about the team identity or the individual identity in holistically, intuitively, because you're more than you're just your CV, right? You're also a parent, a person with different cultural and spiritual guidance that often is ignored when we think about just our CV and just about an opportunity for a presentation or an opportunity for a project. There are so many contextual factors for us to be able to be our best, right? There's physiologic factors in terms of our own personal, mental, and physical health. There are social and spiritual and relational things that need to be foundationally well and need support. And then there's also just dreams and hobbies that we have forgotten about, right? Like often we are writers and musicians and artists and business people and creatives. Those things have sometimes been sort of muffled away on the very last four lines of your CV. Oh, and I also like to hike. Oh, and I'm also a competitive rower. Like those things are way down there at the bottom. And so coaching helps us bring everything holistically all together. And, we often do one of our first assessments, depending whatever, coaching training that you've been to, there's different assessments that you can do. And now in our energy leadership index assessment, we holistically go over what brings you higher energy and where are you in your zone of genius when you're at your best. And then when you're triggered and when things are very stressful, what energy level are you and how does that show up in all the facets of your life? And so with coaching, we can holistically bring together either your performance, either in the relationships, because they do affect each other, right? If you're not well at home or you're not well in your physical life, it's no wonder that you need to give yourself some grace and sort of change the pace and expectations for your professional life. And so we take all of that into account when we're doing the coaching, which then leads into the most common next question, which is, well, how's this different from therapy? I often tell people that coaching really is about looking forward for performance, like an athlete, in terms of visualizing what the future may hold and how are you going to get there, as compared to therapy really is about hearing the trauma, integrating the past so that we are proud and okay of our scars. Our scars make us who we are, but once they're healed, then what do we do with them? So coaching is different from therapy in that respect. And I have no therapy background, and therefore I will not. There are lots of professionals, social workers, therapists, and psychiatrists who do all of that kind of work. And so we don't go into that domain at all. In fact, if anything, in coaching training programs, we recognize when is maladaptive and we need to refer to those. And so some people need both a coach and a therapist. Some people would argue that you need all of these things, right? You need a sponsor, a mentor, you need a coach and a therapist potentially.
Yeah. Wow. That's all so much. And I really like the metaphor of the mentor with the flashlight, the floodlight, the sponsor with the doors opening up, the coach with the mirror and going forward. And then the idea of the therapy is looking behind us and seeing those scars and the healing process and how bringing that forward. I like how you've laid that out for us. And you said something earlier that I thought was so key in academic health and for any faculty person. the CV, the body of our life, the whole way our whole identity, our whole purpose is represented in the CV. And how you rightly point out, maybe those last four lines give a glimpse into our avocations and our heart and our passions and our hobbies. And I think you're so right. Well, I know you're right that, to me, the way you said it, it made me think of that CV as the reality. This is my real life, reality right now, versus ideally, how would this CV more accurately reflect the ideal me? But many of us in academia are so or tend to be boxed in by the expectations or the assumptions of what we're supposed to be doing based on the currency of the trade, the coin of the realm, the scholarship, the publications, the teaching, the grants, the awards, the honors, the leadership roles, la, 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 la. And yet there's so much potential for, ideally, what would this CV look like, as opposed to the last four lines of avid hiker, musician, artist, whatever. What would happen if we'd flip those last four lines to the top and really try to pull those threads through the CV? How might that look? And that's what, you made me realize that I love, Lillian, this idea of coaching can really help illuminate, and really, again, bring a mirror of, yes, this is an accurate reality, a real depiction of what you are and what you're doing is. Let's talk about capacity for more or different, going higher, deeper, lower, broader, all those things. So I think it's so exciting the way you've described this to what if, what else?
Yeah. I think your analogy too about the feeling boxed in, I mean, you really encapsulated probably the first 10 years of my life in academia. Um, you always felt like you were a square peg in a round hole. You always felt like you need to conform to what the norms and the standards are locally, regionally, nationally, right? And it wasn't until you go out to the national level do you start to see, oh, there's heterogeneity and it's okay to be a little different. In fact, you're celebrated where you're at as compared to maybe I need to just toot my own horn a little differently. And so I think a lot of that feeling boxed in that we have to copy what our mentor is doing, when a really good mentor actually does hold both the coaching and the mentor capacity, that they can also flex different skills. And I think only now with academic coaching becoming so popular in most medical schools, and thankfully for people like Dr. Carrie Palomara's work in so many medical schools with academic coaching at the medical school level, that we can see that helping people to become the best learners needs to continue into GME and then the needs to continue into the faculty level. And for some faculty, many who are listening to your podcast, they already are these academic coaches. They're understanding with their training that you can know all you want, you can assess all you want, you can be curriculum developer all you want, but you need to put all those hats aside. And can you just help someone become the best learner? Because when you become the best learner for the lifelong, you can tap into those new possibilities that you don't have to conform to the box anymore. And you can make it a little bit more round or slightly different or with an interpretation, because that's how we get innovation. That's how we can have sustained creativity and growth in our organizations. And I think for us as a leadership coaching company, we feel like our most important people that we need to work with are our leaders throughout the developmental cycle. So early leaders, but also mid-career and senior leaders, because leaders will follow leaders, right? Like you sort of do, like, you role model. And if you don't see that willingness to be having a growth mindset, to have a coach, to be able to think outside the box, if you don't see that in what's ahead of you, it stunts the people who are below you and you don't really realize it. And so often all of us, in a little bit older generation, we may have conformed quite a bit because that was our survival technique. Now, with 5 generations in the workplace, we have a lot more opportunity to be able to think differently and more expansively. And I think you hit the nail on the head about being boxed in versus trying something different.
Mhm. Well, Dr. Emlet, you have said the word innovation or innovate at least twice, and that makes my ears perk up because our president of UTMB, Dr. Jochen Reiser, he's added that as our fourth pillar: education, research, patient care, and innovation. So I'm wondering if you could give an example or share a story of how you have walked alongside your coachees, your clients, to innovation, to learn how to innovate or to do innovation in it, either innovating internally or externally. Because I guess part of my, challenge is you and I know that there's a component of preaching to the choir. People who will reach out to us, and whoever the us is, for faculty development or for coaching or for mentoring, they've theoretically drunk the Kool-Aid. They know the value because they are seeking us out. And there are a whole subpopulation, a whole stratum of faculty members who think, I'm fine, thank you very much, I'm good. And God bless them, they are. I mean, by all objective measures, they are good. So I'm curious about the process that helps illuminate innovation, but also tapping into the group of faculty who don't yet get it. They're not like bought in. That may be two different questions. You could take them however you want, Lillian.
Yeah, no. I mean, so I do think there are two different questions, but I want to take the one first. Not the innovation one, but instead the what do you do with the faculty or researchers? They're just sort of there. And so I'm currently reading a really great book called Radical Candor. We actually have a book club. By the time this podcast comes out, I think the book club will have happened already. But it really talks about how to be a great boss and that there are superstars and there are rock stars, meaning that there are people on your team who are solid, reliable, do quality work, don't rock the boat, and without them, you wouldn't have a foundation to be on. And we often don't appreciate those people enough. And we also don't understand them well enough that being the rock is either identity, great for them, or it's just sort of what they need at that time. They need stability in their life because other things are not stable, right? Like their kids aren't stable or they have health issues in their family. There is something else not stable. So they need their job to be stable. As compared to the superstars, where they are the innovators. They are the ones who are like, okay, I'm hungry. Give me something else to cut my teeth on. Let me fix something for you. They have other identities they want to try out and values that are being represented. And it is the leader's job to make sure they really understand where everybody is and that everybody's appreciated. Because most often we only reward the innovators. We only reward those who want to like take on additional responsibility, go the extra mile, be the one to, try out some kind of new program and change everything, how everything be wonderful now with AI, right? Like we only reward those people, but we often forget that you need both in your team. And that so when we coach teams and we think about how can we make a team healthy, we have to understand that teams may change over years, and often leaders don't express that. Leaders are often reactive to the market forces, to the supply chain issues, to burnout. They're all reactive. Everything in our sick healthcare system really is reactive. We do need to take a beat from like the well-being, the lifestyle medicine colleagues to think about how can we apply that to even how we manage our groups. And if our faculty groups and our leaders were well, which is why foundationally we want to holistically help our key leaders first, and then from there, the leaders, and then from their teams. Because, in the end, if I can help certain individuals that are very instrumental in making the system and the environment and the workplace and the structures and the conversations better for the group, all of the other people come with, right? Like those people in the middle of the water, they're flowing with the stream for a reason, right? They're not gonna rock the boat. But if you can make everything else more safe for everybody, then the innovators will just get more innovative. And the people who are sort of, I'm just staying here, will come along with you too. And so it's really about trying to find that happy medium to reward both in your team and say, like, you're both valued here. And we need both of those things to be able to innovate. We need people who are going to be able to poke holes, to see a different perspective, even in any type of creative meeting. At the same time, while people are, trying wildly crazy things and going for, innovation grants and trying huge multi-system projects, that's also great too.
Yeah. I think sometimes people here, like in my role here at University of Texas Medical Branch, as doing leadership. I don't want to be a leader. Why would I want to? I'm not interested in that leadership stuff. I am not a leader and I don't want to be a leader. Thank you very much. Without recognizing the principles or the competencies apply to everyone. we're all leaders in some regard. You're a leader in your household, whether you believe it or you're not, or not in academic health. We're all leaders in our community. People look up to us for the work we do. So there are leaders and just as important followers. You have to do, we don't talk enough about followership. And each of us follow somebody. Y'all got to serve someone. We're all serving someone. And so the good followership principles, are very similar to the leadership principles. So what I appreciate about what you said is between the rock stars and superstars is that a level of awareness that wherever we are in all the myriad layers of the onion of our lives, we're functioning in different roles. So the coaching, the mentoring, the sponsoring, the therapy, each has its own Venn diagrammy overlapping dynamic, but each can help to level us up and highlight those strengths and teach us how to amplify those strengths and teach us how to mitigate those sticky, crunchy bits of us when we are in the grip and when we're in stress. So that's what I really appreciate about how you're describing this coaching, the value of coaching for everyone from beginning to end in all sectors.
Yeah. I really appreciate you pointing out the fact that a lot of people don't identify with the leader name or title. We really have run into that quite a bit with our coaching company when we've been talking with people. People who want to come to us are usually division chiefs or newly promoted associate chiefs. They're all people who can see themselves as a leader only because they just got the title. And now they're scared and they're realizing the stakes are much higher. I have a whole lot of people reporting to me. I've like doubled or tripled my influence like overnight. But it's in that moments when you start to realize, but there's so many people, like you said, just graduated. You're already a leader. In fact, even I tell my fellows, you're already a leader. So we actually do a leadership workshop in our well-being curriculum where we put out a bunch of cards, some images, and have people think about their own leadership signature style. And they're still in training. And I'll argue that even if you're in training, you already have leadership because not only are you leading your own life to be able to get to work, right? You might have a pet, you might have a partner, you might have a kid. You're leading your own life to be able to have the capacity and the ability to come with your talents and your caring and your empathy to deliver high quality medical care on the teams that you're serving and the patients you're serving. You're already a leader, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a physician, whether you're in training. And so we actually have a program for a group coaching community program for people to begin to think about how can I lead my own life better? And so much of it comes down to mindset, gratefulness, health, pillars of lifestyle medicine, relationships, making life fun and in connection with each other. I think when you don't have those foundations, then you can start to get a little bit too buffeted by like the winds of society, right? Where you can let things bother you too much. And when you become a leader of your own life again, you realize you have greater agency to choose or not choose, that you have ability to make the right decisions for yourself. And you're actually leading your own life by deciding this is what fills my cup. This is my purpose in life. And if it's in healthcare, usually it somehow relates to helping others. And so when you help yourself, you can help others better. And until someone's seen that or become more aware of it, they often just keep doing the same old, same old. And so our hope with our podcast and with everything we do at Transforming is that you're helping. If you just become a leader of your own life, that's good enough. Being a great follower is amazing. And also for those who in the organizations who need, greater support, we have different tiers of programs to be able to help those key individuals become better in service to each other, right? We all just want to be in service to each other.
So tell everybody about your podcast.
Yeah, so our podcast is Transforming Healthcare Coaching Podcast, and we're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, and we'll have different topics, whether it's related to leadership, self-leadership, well-being, because I really think that the one metric that we often don't measure in someone's leadership credentials is how well can they make themselves and their team. Because if our healthcare were well, we would actually stamp out burnout and we'd stay for the long haul. And that's what we actually want, right? All of us are still here in healthcare. We're both professors, right? We're still here. Our goal is to make healthcare well and it's a great place, still a really great place. I see excellent, excited young trainees all the time. We want to provide all the structures and supports throughout that journey. And so our podcast hopefully gives you tidbits of, wisdom along the way to be able to stay in the game.
There is a link to your podcast in the description today on thefacultyfactory.org. I think I also just heard you, Dr. Emlet, give a prescription for fun. You said the F word. You said fun in healthcare. And tell us a little bit about fun and how you hypothesize that fun can lead to innovation.
Yeah, so obviously, being fun, a lot of times, it's really sort of my educational theory is a little bit wonky because I'm a simulation educator. So I feel that we learn via play. And so when we think about play and how little kids experiment and like figure things out for the very first time mechanically and cognitively and together socially as a team, I also think that that's how we're really learning in healthcare. And I know there's a lot of adult learning theory people out there, so I don't want to throw any shade on any of those theories. But I actually think if we begin to see how we do things on a day, if we are looking for the fun and we're looking for that everything's very playful, then it's just micro experiments that we're doing in life, whether that's running a resuscitation, doing a procedure, talking with a patient. It's fun. It's wonderful that we get that opportunity to be able to be in community with each other. If we can have that hat on, have those sunglasses on more, then we can begin to see like it's not so bad and maybe I can make it better, right? Because when we're coloring, when it was fun when we were little, we could actually just tweak it a little bit and it was no big deal. And so same thing with our healthcare system. There's lots of things that are broken. And if it were fun, we can maybe have a different hat. And I see that all the time with some of our quality improvements, some of our colleagues. This isn't right. Let's change it slightly. Let's keep doing that. And they keep tweaking, they keep iterating. They can find the opportunities because they can still find the fun and the joy and give it to each other. And if the team is healthy in that way, then it will continue to iterate towards good things. And that's really what you want on the team. And sometimes we often, as leaders, we're worried about all kinds of reports and other different things that we often forget to imbue that into our meetings in terms of the gratitude, and the learning and the fun that we all come to healthcare
I
with.
love that. I love that, Lillian. And I also really love that you use the phrase micro experiments. And that's when I'm coaching people. It's the same, I use that similar kind of idea that you're a scientist. So if we come up with, you have a goal, if you want to start exploring, what if I did this or what if I did that? What can you anticipate are some of the obstacles? I was trained with the College of Executive Coaching, and Dr. Jeff Auerbach has a model called the GOOD model: goals, obstacles, options, and do. And so if we were think of like some of, the obstacles I might confront if I were to try to achieve this goal, what are the options? And that's in the options, you try different things, and guess what? It's not like, but I could try that, and then what's going to happen if it doesn't work? No, you try something else. It's an experiment. If we think about during the coaching process, as you described earlier, holding that mirror up to ourselves and thought partnering with someone, you lower the kind of the anxiety or the threat level because we're scientists. We're going to try it. Guess what? I tried it. Not so much. Guess what? I tried this. This part of it worked, but that it's like tweaking a recipe.
Hmm.
We're not necessarily hemming ourselves. We're not planting some permanent marker ink on our CV that can never be edited or changed. This is the playful, fun thing of what if, and you keep trying, tweaking, adjusting, a little more cinnamon, a little less nutmeg, blah, 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 until we sit in a space that this feels good. This
Yeah.
tastes good for now.
Right.
And we can then continue as we are more creative and we get more comfortable with fuzzier borders and helping others see that the borders can be fuzzy. Now we've got these creative engines going everywhere, and we're all um, innovating together and recognizing that, yes, certainly some things are hemmed in, rightly so. There are definite tried true, this is a standard best practice for this, we're going to do that. And as you pointed out, Lillian, there's a little bit of room here for doing this better. What could that look like? What could that be? And that is the fun of in a team, in a or on ourselves, CEO of our own, lives, um, how can we trial and error this?
Yeah. And so as you were talking, it made me realize another piece of advice I would like to give to all of the younger generations of healthcare professionals out there, is that a lot of times we're told no, have boundaries. And I'll tell you that if you don't say yes, if you don't make this a fun experiment, you'll just not have anything, not only not on your CV, but you also not have learned anything and not have grown and all. And so I think there's a danger to saying no too much. And so what I often tell, because obviously I'm a critical care person, so we have something called time limited trials where we don't know how someone's physiology is going to go. We're going to do a time limited trial and see whether our intensive therapies will work. And either it will work or it won't. And we'll be able to readdress with the family in a couple of days and see how things are going. So I think if we see our own lives the same way, we do time limited trials of a yes to, I will serve on this committee. I will be interim chair for at the most a year, ideally 9 months, right? You give people some boundaries, but you say yes to when things come up, like, or raise your hand. There's so much of the not raising hand, worries about time, worries about commitment. And I think, unfortunately, the reality is saying yes with some guardrails is going to be much more useful, especially early on in your career, to try those things out, to be able to do those micro experiments, like you're saying, and make that recipe the way you want it to look.
I love it. Dr. Emlet, this has been so informative. I knew it would be. I love it. What else would you like to share with the Faculty Factory podcast audience around the world? And I'll leave you to kind of give us some parting thoughts.
Yeah, I just would like people to think about the fact that coaching is normal and should be expected for all healthcare professionals. So, all leaders, especially. And that means if you're just being promoted or just thinking about becoming an assistant something or an associate something, even that early, you deserve to have a coach. And I think that's a narrative that needs to change in healthcare. The other a piece of advice that many have come on our podcast and talked about, Dr. Risa Lewis, she was like, don't forget. Coaching is a negotiation piece in your contract. They may not increase your salary, but you can ask for coaching for 6 months, a year, ideally, a year's worth, because you want to get as much out of the process, especially when you're going to a higher level position. So those are probably the main things to think about, the fact that you are investing in yourself with coaching and no one can ever take it away when you plunk down the money and do the work. And it's a gift you give yourself.
I love it. Thank you so much, Lillian. Thanks for tuning in to the Faculty Factory podcast. We are a faculty development community sharing tools to build academic leaders in healthcare. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast? Please visit facultyfactory.org/contact and send me a message there. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Office of Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas.